Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. I am down in Abingdon today, about to do the marathon. I'm not going to race it because I did Berlin 3 weeks ago, but I'm going to be running with some friends. And I'm going to be testing the Adidas Prime X2 Strung. I know it's not race legal and definitely not going to be very fast, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. Right, I'm going to head over to this track now and get started. See you at the end. So I'm back now from the Abingdon Marathon, and it was a very good and successful day out. I originally signed up to Abingdon because I didn't know if I was going to get into Berlin, and I wanted to have a backup race planned in so that all the training I did over the summer was working towards something. I did end up doing Berlin and I got my 2 hours 53 minute PB. So Abingdon I decided to take as a bit of a rest and a bit of an enjoyable long run. So I went with a few friends and I paced one of them up to about 32k and just really had a nice enjoyable run out on the course and didn't push myself too hard. I'm going back into training for some shorter distance events now, so I didn't want to go all out and affect my training over the next few weeks. So just had a nice day out there and just hang out with some friends that I've not seen for a while. If you don't know much about Abingdon, I didn't know much before I did it. The reason that I decided to do Abingdon is because it's pretty convenient to get to if you live in the southeast or southwest. Especially if you come from London or somewhere like that, it's only about 40 minutes away. So it's a good marathon to choose if you want something convenient, but it's also very flat and as a result, very fast as well. So I picked it because I wanted something that I could go really hard at, and Abingdon seemed like a good option for that. It's also relatively cheap to do, and it's pretty easy to get into. You can get into right up to the race itself a few days before the race. So it's a good one to go into if you are really looking for something and you don't want to go through all of the ballots and everything like that you get with some of the big marathons. Now, if you've done a big marathon like London or Chicago or New York, any of those sorts of ones, then those get a lot of people. You're looking at like 30,000 to 40,000 people in some of those events. This is a much smaller event. I think there's about 1,200 people that signed up for it. I don't think there was that many people that raced it. So it's a much smaller affair. It's a much more local affair. And as a result, it's got a very different feel to what you'll get if you're doing a bigger marathon, which is probably going to have a bit of a sway in if it's the right marathon for you as well. The biggest thing I noticed about Abingdon Marathon is that it's not all on closed roads. Some of the roads are closed off, about half of it. So there are still cars going down one side of the road, you're running on the other side of the road. As a result, it's not, for me, it wasn't as relaxing as some of the marathons where you just get a big wide road and you just run along it whenever you want. You did have to pay quite a lot of attention to the cars going on. There are loads of marshals. I was amazed at how many marshals were out on the course. There needed to be a lot of marshals because the roads aren't closed, but they were absolutely fantastic. I'd say the marshals at the race were some of the best I've ever seen. They were so friendly. They really did care about what was going on. They were very, very much focused on your safety. Great organisation, really well planned out course, all of those sorts of things. It's not all on road, so some of it is on little public footpaths and things like that. There's not many that you'd class as being off-road, but some of the little paths are a little bit muddy and aren't really, they're more like on hard compact mud. You wouldn't really need to use trail shoes for it, but I do know that last year when Kieran did it, it was just raining the whole time, so it probably was getting a little bit muddy. We were really lucky yesterday. It was really, really dry and just perfect conditions all out, really. I know quite a few people were getting PBs on the course. The course itself loops around Abingdon, and there's actually quite a large section of about 4 miles that you do twice. So if you don't like doing repetitive loops, you might not want to do this for a marathon. But to be honest, I didn't really notice on the second time around that we'd done it before. There was only a couple of things I spotted that I thought, oh, I've seen that before. So it's not actually that bad, and it's a really nice course. There's some nice bit of lake you can see, and it's obviously a very nice countryside. So it's a very enjoyable, relaxed feeling course, which is great if you are a beginner and you want something that's just a little bit more low-key than the big scale marathons. But if you do want a big scale marathon, it's not that. It's quite small and local feeling, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you're looking for that grandiose feel of a big marathon, then you're not going to get it at Abingdon. The start and the finish are on the running track at Abingdon, which is a really nice way to start a race. It's really nice coming back into it at the end. To be honest, I was amazed at how many crowds there were. There just seemed to be crowds all along the course just cheering all the way, which when you consider it's in a little town near Oxfordshire, I was not expecting that big a crowd. There's always people shouting. You had your name on the vest, and I could hear my name getting shouted all the time. So it was really quite impressive, the amount of cheering and support you get along the way, which is really nice and well worth going to if that's what you're looking for. Weather conditions, as I say, were absolutely fantastic. It was a tiny bit of breeze. It was very sunny, but it was also nice and cool as well. Absolute difference from what happened last year when Kieran did it and it was raining the whole time. So yeah, really nice day out to do the Abingdon Marathon. Finish line is great as well. So it goes back around the track that you start on, and you run all the way around as the person on the microphone gives you shout outs and congratulations as you're coming around. Sometimes they'll read out some little facts about you that you put on the registration form. So it's a really nice feel when you come back into the track. And it seemed like most of the runners and most of the spectators that were there all hung around afterwards. So there was a massive crowd at the end and just felt really, really nice to finish. Very warming and enjoyable atmosphere afterwards. Okay, so into the shoes. So I used the Adidas Prime X2 Strung for the Abingdon Marathon, and it's a shoe that I really warmed to. We've done a few videos on these shoes now, and I've been a really big fan of them so far. I wasn't a massive fan of the original Prime X Strung. I just found it a little bit wobbly, and I got really, really bad heel rub from that shoe. So didn't really enjoy that shoe, and I definitely wouldn't have used it for a marathon just because I just didn't find it very comfortable at all. What I found about the Adidas Prime X2 Strung is that it is a much heavier shoe. It's really noticeably heavier when you pick it up. I can feel how heavy it is now. But it doesn't have a massive effect for me on the way that I can run it now. I used this shoe quite a lot for training for Berlin. I was doing a lot of tempo sessions in it, where I was doing up to 15 miles at my marathon pace. Felt great. It just felt really good. The way that the carbon plates combined with the midsole foam defies the weight of it, and it really does make it quite a nice cruising propulsive shoe for maintaining that pace. So I wanted to use it for Abingdon because I wouldn't use this for racing just because it is probably a bit too heavy for racing, especially over marathon distance. But I wanted to test it out over marathon distance in an event, just to see how it felt across the whole thing. And the pace that I was running at, so I was running about 5 to 5 minute, 30-minute kilometres over the course of Abingdon Marathon. And for that speed and that distance, it just felt great. It just felt like you could just maintain a really nice, easy pace. But did feel like it was pushing along a bit forward. I could probably have done the pace I did. I finished in 3 hours 48, so I could probably have used any shoe I wanted to do that, because for me that's a pretty comfortable marathon. But what I did find about the Prime X2 Strung is that it felt like I could pick up the pace whenever I wanted. It felt like I was very much in control. The shoe felt like it had a lot more speed in it when if I wanted it. So if I was speeding up to go and take some photos or something, I could do that in this shoe. And I don't think it felt heavy at all at that pace. I think if I was going a lot faster, then I would notice it. I'd want something lighter, like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, something like that. But at that pace, it just felt really comfortable, lovely cruising pace, nicely tipping you forward, nicely bouncing you along. Not the most noticeable performance shoe. I definitely didn't feel like I was bouncing loads, but it was just a nice cruising pace, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really, really good shoe if you're looking for something that just helps you maintain a nice, consistent pace and allows you to pick up the speed if you wanted to. But in terms of the distance for this shoe, I think half marathon to the marathon distance is probably a sweet spot for this shoe, more for training runs than actually racing. I wouldn't race in this. I know it's an illegal shoe if you are like an elite or an athlete. But for a normal person, I do think it's a little bit clunky and a bit much for racing. But definitely, if you're doing long distance training or if you're doing a marathon comfortably, it's a very nice shoe. It felt a lot more stable than the original Prime X Strung. No heel rub, no pain in it, no restrictiveness. It just felt very, very comfortable, and I had no issues at all the way to the end. So that's it from me. That was my race test for the Abingdon Marathon 2023. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the little bell. And if you go into the caption below, you can find a link to our monthly podcast, which comes at the end of each month. And if you like it, please leave us a rating and maybe a review. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.